The ultimatum. The skies over New Geneva were no longer blue. They had taken on the faint sheen of alien metal, the color of ships that hovered so high they looked like scars on the heavens. Humanity had not seen open skies for years, not since the plagues, not since the wars that followed. Most cities were reduced to silent husks, and those that still clung to life did so only because of the alien benefactors who had arrived at our lowest point. The Aleri. They called themselves saviors, healers, preservers of what little genetic diversity was left in humanity. And in a way, they were. They brought medicines that stopped the bleeding, technology that pulled crops out of poisoned soil, and, most of all, hope that our species might not vanish into history's ash. But they did not give without asking. They never did. That was why I stood in the Hall of Renewal, a place carved from white stone and humming with alien light, while a dozen of their counselors stared down at me from raised thrones. Their faces were nearly human, 2 eyes, 2 arms, voices like soft music, but their elegance was beyond us. Taller, flawless, ageless, with a glow about their skin as though starlight clung to their veins. And beside me stood 2 of them, sisters, Elira and Kaela. Their resemblance was undeniable. Both had hair that shimmered like silver fire and eyes that reflected more than light, as if they could look straight into thought itself. Elira carried herself with the calm of a river at dawn, serene and deliberate. Kaela burned brighter, her movements sharp, her stare defiant, as though she resented even being here. Together, they were opposites, yet bound as one. The eldest counselor rose, robes sweeping the floor like liquid light. "Human," he said, his voice ringing like a chime. "You have been selected. Your lineage is strong, unbroken by the poisons of your kind's wars. You will take one of our daughters as mate. Through this union, your species will be preserved." The words were delivered with cold certainty, as though they were already law. I should have felt on it. I had been raised among ruins, watching neighbors starve, burying friends before they reached adulthood. To be chosen as a seed-bearer was rare. It meant safety, status, even survival. But I couldn't look at Elira without seeing Kaela at her side. I couldn't imagine telling one that she was worth more than the other, or breaking the bond one could already see between them. The counselor's hands swept between them. "Choose one." My mouth went dry. The air seemed thinner, heavy with expectation. Every human who had stood here before me had obeyed. I was supposed to pick, nod respectfully, and walk away into my new life. But something inside me refused. Perhaps it was stubbornness. Perhaps it was the gnawing ache of years living under rules I never made, watching humanity bend until it nearly broke. Or maybe it was the way Elira's hand brushed her sister's as if to say, "We will endure together, whatever comes." I heard myself speak before I realized what I was saying. "No." The council chamber froze. The word echoed off the walls, sharp and blasphemous. The eldest narrowed his shining eyes. "You misunderstand," he said patiently, as though to a child. "You must choose one. The other will be returned to her people." I shook my head. "I understand perfectly, and I won't choose." Gasps rippled through the chamber, human attendants paling, alien nobles shifting with agitation. Elira's lips parted in surprise. Kaela smirked faintly, a spark of approval flickering in her gaze. The eldest counselor's voice hardened. "Our ways are ancient. Balance demands unity through singular bonds. To reject, this is to reject your people's survival." "Survival?" I said, heat rising in my chest. Humanity survived plagues, fire, famine, and worse. We didn't do it by following rules carved into stone. We did it by bending, breaking, finding ways forward no one expected. You want me to pick one sister? That would be tearing them apart. That's not survival. That's control. The silence that followed was like a blade. Elira looked at me then, really looked, as though my defiance had peeled something open. Kaela stepped closer, shoulders squaring as if she dared the council to strike her down for standing with me. Finally, the eldest spoke, voice colder than the void. "You dare to defy the covenant of the Aleri? Then you will face judgment. Your arrogance endangers the gift we offer. Do you understand what you risk?" I held their gaze, every muscle in my body screaming at me to bow, to apologize, to live another day. But I didn't bow. I understand, I said, but I won't choose one. I choose both. The chamber erupted, voices clashing, some shouting in outrage, others murmuring in disbelief. The counselors rose, robes flaring like wings, and attendants hurried forward as if to drag me away. But Elira spoke, her voice calm yet ringing with clarity. He honors us both. He honors what we are. Perhaps there is wisdom in this human's defiance. Kaela added, sharp as a blade. Or perhaps he is the first not too afraid to tell you your laws are broken. Their words only deepened the chaos. The council slammed staffs against the floor to silence them, declaring the matter unresolved. Guards stepped forward, their eyes on me, waiting for the order to strike. But in that moment, I felt no fear. I had said the truth aloud, and both sisters had stood with me. Whatever came next, whether exile, punishment, or death, I knew one thing with unshakable certainty. Humanity's future would not be forged by blind obedience. It would be forged by choice, by defiance, by refusing to let anyone, alien or otherwise, decide what family meant. And for the first time in years, I felt alive. Defiance and consequence. The council did not deliberate long. After my declaration, they ordered me confined to a chamber of white stone with no doors, no windows, only walls that hummed faintly with alien power. The light came from nowhere, soft and steady, refusing to dim even when my body screamed for rest. They called it reflection time. I called it a prison. Hours bled into days. At least I think they did. Time was hard to measure in that sealed room. Meals appeared silently through the wall. A tray of nutrient paste, clear water, and nothing else. My body survived. My mind burned. They wanted me to think about obedience. They wanted me to bend. Instead, I thought of Elira and Kaela. Their faces lingered in my mind. Elira's calm, ocean-deep eyes that seemed to understand before I spoke. Kaelin's fierce smirk, daring anyone to silence her. Two halves of one bond. I had seen the way they moved, how their hands brushed as if parting for even a breath was unnatural. They were not rivals. They were family, bound by something older than the council's decrees. I hadn't just spoken for myself that day. I had spoken for them. When the walls finally shifted, parting like liquid glass, two guards entered. Their armor glimmered with a sheen like quicksilver, and their expressions were unreadable. One gestured with a staff tipped in pale blue light. Come, he ordered. They led me back into the Hall of Renewal, though this time the chamber was darker, shadows pooling around the council thrones. The elders looked down at me with eyes that no longer glimmered with patient superiority, but with cold judgment. The eldest rose again. His voice was sharper now, stripped of pretense. Human, you were given a gift. You spat on it. You were told to choose, and you defied. Do you comprehend the gravity of your crime? My throat felt tight, but I forced my words out anyway. I comprehend. I just don't accept. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some of the younger counselors looked unsettled, even curious. The older one scowled as if my existence was a contagion. The eldest lifted his hand. Elira and Kaela stepped forward from the shadows. Their wrists glowed faintly, restraints of light, not metal, but binding all the same. My heart clenched. Elira's gaze found mine, steady and calm, a quiet reassurance that she did not regret standing with me. Kaela tilted her head, her lips curved in that same fierce defiance, as if daring me to regret nothing as well. The eldest's voice boomed again. You speak of unity, yet your arrogance endangers these daughters. If you had chosen, one would be honored, the other released. Now both face disgrace. My fists clenched. Then disgrace me too. But don't pretend it's about honor. You afraid? A hiss swept through the council. The eldest's eyes narrowed. Afraid? Yes, I said, my voice steady now, anger cooling into clarity. You see humans as broken children clinging to survival. But you forget, survival is what we do. Rules don't keep us alive. Choices do. And you're terrified that my choice shows your law isn't sacred. It's just a cage. Silence followed. Heavy. Dangerous. It was Elira who broke it, her voice soft but carrying like a song. He is not wrong. Our law was written to prevent division. But look at us. She glanced at Kaela, then back to the council. He refuses division. He sees us as we see each other. Is that not worth reflection? Kaela added, sharper, or maybe you're just afraid that a human shows more courage than your entire council combined. The guards bristled, stepping closer as though her words were physical weapons. The eldest slammed his staff down, light flaring. Enough. If you will not obey, human, then you will prove yourself. You speak of survival, then you shall survive. The words chilled the chamber. Another counselor leaned forward, her eyes narrow slits. We will test you in the expanse. Alone, with both sisters. If you endure together, perhaps your defiance has weight. If not, your arrogance dies with you. The expanse. Even I had heard whispers. A wasteland carved from poisoned earth and prowled by beasts twisted beyond recognition. It was where the Ilari sent criminals, rebels, and exiles. None returned. So this was their punishment. They would not kill us outright. They would cast us into a graveyard and let it swallow us. The eldest raised his staff again. You will depart at first light. Until then, you will remain under guard. Reflect, human. For tomorrow, your choices will either prove your words or end your line forever. The guards seized my arms, dragging me back through the shifting walls. Elira and Kaela were pulled alongside me, their restraints dissolving once the council chambers sealed behind us. For a long time, none of us spoke. The echo of the council's decree still rang in my ears. Finally, Elira's hand brushed mine, gentle as flowing water. You should not have risked yourself for us. I shook my head. I didn't risk myself. I risked us. And I'd do it again. Kaelan's laugh was low, sharp, but not unkind. Good. Because tomorrow, we'll need every ounce of that stubbornness just to breathe. We were led into a holding chamber, smaller and darker than my prison before. But this time we were together, guards stationed outside the doorway, silent as statues. We sat close, 3 shadows against the wall. For the first time since the ultimatum, I let myself breathe, not because we were safe, but because we were no longer alone. I looked at them both, at the bond in their mirrored eyes, and felt something stir deep within me. Not fear, not regret, but the certainty that this was only the beginning. The council thought they had cornered us, but they had done something far more dangerous. They had given us a chance to prove them wrong. The hidden bond. The morning of exile came not with sunlight, but with the sound of metal tearing the sky. A ship descended to the council's platform, its hull blackened and scarred, as if it had been carved from the expanse itself. The guards marched us forward, our hands unbound but our fate sealed. Elira walked with quiet composure, her steps steady as if she were going to a ceremony, not a death sentence. Kaela strode beside her like a blade drawn from its sheath, every movement sharp with defiance. I walked between them, neither calm nor sharp, just determined. The eldest counselor's voice carried across the platform, as if the words were carved into the air. The expanse has claimed thousands. If your unity is more than arrogance, prove it. Survive until the second moon rises. If you endure together, we may reconsider your blasphemy. If you fail, your bones will feed the dust. The guards shoved us aboard. The doors sealed. A hum rose beneath our feet. Then, with a violent lurch, the world fell away. The expanse stretched beneath us like a wound. From the air it looked endless, a wasteland of cracked earth, rivers of sludge, and forests twisted into jagged shapes. The ship dipped lower, its hull rattling as if eager to be rid of us. Kaela pressed her hand against the viewing pane. Beautiful, she muttered. Her tone was half sarcasm, half awe. Beautiful? I asked. She shrugged. Everything that kills you has beauty, if you know how to look. Elira's gaze lingered on the horizon. Do not be fooled. The expanse is merciless. We must remain together, every moment. Separation means death. The ship landed with a jarring thud. The doors hissed open, hot air rushing in thick with a stench of sulfur and decay. No farewell, no guidance, just exile. We stepped into a new world. The ground was dry and brittle, cracking underfoot like old bone. The air burned the throat with each breath. Jagged trees rose in clusters, their branches coiled like claws. Insects the size of fists skittered in the shadows. Somewhere in the distance, something roared, deep and guttural. Kaela smirked. Feels like home already. Some home, I muttered. Elira placed her hand against my arm, her touch cool against the heat. Do not waste words on bitterness. We must find water, shelter, then food. Practical, clear, focused. She thought like a survivor. We moved cautiously through the wasteland, each step crunching on the cracked ground. My eyes scanned for resources, anything that might help us endure. Humanity had survived worse than this, though perhaps not by choice. After hours of searching, we found a shallow ravine where brackish water pooled. It reeked, but Elira knelt, closing her eyes. She hummed, soft and low, her hands hovering above the surface. The water trembled, then cleared as if an unseen hand swept away the filth. I stared. You can purify it. Only enough to drink, she said, her voice weary. Not enough to cleanse the land. The bond we share allows us to draw from each other, but it drains us quickly. Kaela crouched beside me, scooping the water into a hollowed stone. Our people were forbidden to use our bond this way. Too dangerous, they said. Too costly. But if we're going to survive, rules don't matter. That word again, rules. Always rules. Always cages disguised as wisdom. We drank. For the first time since landing, I felt my body ease. By dusk we had gathered what little we could. Scraps of wood from the twisted trees, leaves thick enough to form crude bedding, stones sharp enough to serve as blades. I showed them how to lash branches with vine to form a shelter. Crude, ugly, but better than sleeping exposed. Kaela watched with interest, her sharp eyes narrowing as I tied knots. You humans, you make something from nothing. Even our children are taught to accept what is given. You twist what is broken into something useful. That's how we survived, I said. We didn't have much choice. Elira sat close, weaving leaves into coverings with quick, graceful fingers. Perhaps that is why you defied the council. You see choices where others see only laws. Her words lingered in the air long after night fell. The first night in the expanse was not quiet. The darkness crawled with sounds, chirps, growls, the hiss of unseen things sliding through the underbrush. The shelter shuddered in the wind, leaves rustling like whispers. Every instinct screamed to stay awake. We took turns keeping watch. Kaela insisted on the first. She sat at the entrance of our crude shelter, sharp stone in hand, her eyes reflecting the faint light of the moons. When my turn came, Elira stirred beside me. Her voice was soft, just above a whisper. You risked yourself for us. Why? I stared out into the dark, gripping my stone blade. Because asking me to choose meant tearing you apart. That's not survival. That's cruelty. And I've seen enough cruelty for 10 lifetimes. She was quiet a moment, then said, You think like us. But also, not like us. Humans are strange. I smiled faintly. Strange is how we've made it this far. From behind, Kaelan's voice cut through the dark. Don't romanticize him, sister. He's reckless, stubborn, and reckless men die fast. Maybe, Elira said gently. But sometimes the reckless change everything. I said nothing more, but the words settled deep in my chest, a warmth against the night. The second moon rose, casting pale light across the wasteland. I looked out at the expanse and felt the weight of what was ahead. The council thought this trial would break us, force us to admit that unity was weakness. But already I could see the truth. The three of us together were stronger than any rule they tried to impose. It wasn't just survival. It was a bond. Something unspoken, but growing, like a fire beneath the ashes. And I knew, if we endured the days to come, it would not only prove the council wrong, it would change everything. Trial of unity. The expanse never slept. By the second dawn, the air was already trembling with heat. Waves shimmered across the broken earth, distorting the horizon into a mirage of false water and wavering shadows. The ground cracked with each step we took, brittle as glass, and the air reeked of metal and sulfur. We had survived one night, but survival wasn't victory. Not yet. Keep moving, Elira urged, her voice calm but firm. She walked at the front, silver hair catching the pale light of the rising sun. The expanse will not wait for us to rest. Kaela snorted. The expanse can choke on its own poison. I'm more worried about what's following us. I glanced back. Nothing but cracked earth and jagged tree husks stretching into the distance. But she wasn't wrong. I'd felt it too, a subtle pressure in the air, like eyes watching from just out of sight. Predators. We had to find higher ground. By midday, we reached a ridge of black stone rising above the wasteland. Climbing was slow. Our hands scraped raw against the jagged surface. But when we reached the top, we saw the truth. The land below writhed with movement. Dozens of creatures the size of horses skittered across the cracked flats, their bodies armored with plates of bone, their limbs jointed wrong, their eyes glowing faint green. They moved in packs, sniffing the air, their claws clicking on stone. Hunters, Elira whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. We must not be seen. Kaela crouched, teeth bared in something between a grin and a snarl. And if we are? I studied the terrain. The ridge stretched far, but a gap split the path ahead. To cross, we'd have to descend into the open, then climb again. If the hunters saw us, they'll tear us apart, I said bluntly. The sisters looked at me. Elira's eyes searched mine, calm but questioning. Kaelan's burned with reckless fire. I swallowed. We'll have to outthink them. The hunters prowled closer as the sun dipped low, their green eyes glowing brighter in the dusk. They sniffed the air, their jaws opening to reveal rows of jagged teeth. We waited until the pack thinned, some wandering toward the sludge river to the east. That left fewer to guard the gap. This is our chance, I whispered. We descended quickly, every movement calculated. My muscles screamed as I lowered myself down the ridge face, rocks cutting my palms. Elira followed gracefully, Kaela with restless energy. The moment we hit the ground, the air shifted. One of the hunters turned, its head jerking unnaturally as it scented us. It shrieked, a sound like metal tearing, and the others answered. Run! I shouted. We sprinted across the flats, the cracked earth crunching beneath our boots. Behind us, claws scraped stone, bodies slammed against the ground, and the hunters charged. Kaela was faster, her stride fierce, wild. Elira kept pace, though her breath came sharp and quick. I forced my legs to move faster, every instinct screaming that if I slowed, I'd feel teeth in my back. The far ridge loomed ahead, its surface slick and steep. We reached it and began to climb, hands scrambling for holds. I shoved Elira upward, Kaela pulling her higher, before I started after them. The hunters slammed into the ridge below, their claws gouging deep into the stone. One lunged upward, jaws snapping inches from my foot. I kicked hard, my boot cracking against its face. It screeched, tumbling back into the pack. Faster! Kaela shouted. She grabbed my wrist, holding me the last few feet to the top. We collapsed, gasping, sweat stinging our eyes. Below, the hunters seethed, pacing and snarling, their eyes burning holes into us. But they couldn't climb further. Not tonight. When the danger passed, we huddled beneath a jut of stone for shelter. Our bodies ached, every muscle raw, every breath ragged. Elira reached out, pressing her palm against my arm. Her touch sent a strange warmth through me, like calm settling into chaos. You saved us, she murmured. I shook my head. We saved each other. Kaela leaned back, still panting, her eyes glinting even in the darkness. And tomorrow, we'll do it again, and again, until this cursed trial ends. The night grew colder. The hunters prowled below, their voices echoing across the wasteland. Sleep came in fractured moments, broken by distant shrieks. But even in exhaustion, something shifted between us. We had faced death together and lived. By the third dawn, hunger gnawed at us. Our meager rations from the first day were gone. The expanse offered little, twisted fruits that reeked of rot, insects too poisonous to touch. We stumbled onward until Kaela spotted movement ahead. A creature grazed alone, smaller than the hunters, its body sleek, its eyes duller. Prey. My stomach twisted. I'd hunted before, in the ruins back home. But this was different. Alien. Wrong. Still, survival didn't care about comfort. I picked up a jagged stone, sharp as a knife. Elira and Kaela flanked the creature, moving silently. My heart pounded as I crept closer, every instinct screaming not to fail. At the right moment, Kaela lunged, driving the beast toward me. I struck hard, stone against flesh. The creature thrashed, shrieking, but Elira pressed her hands against its neck, humming softly. It stilled, as though lulled into sleep before death claimed it. We shared the meat that night, roasting it over a fire Kaela sparked by striking stone against stone. The flames flickered, casting shadows across our faces. It was the first warm meal any of us had tasted in days. As we ate, Elira spoke quietly. They wanted us to fail, to prove humanity's arrogance. But already, I feel our bond growing stronger. Kaela smirked, juice staining her lips. Stronger, yes, but not because of them. Because of him. She jerked her chin toward me. His madness dragged us this far. I shook my head, staring into the fire. No, because of us. All three of us. Alone, would already be dead. Elira smiled faintly. Kaelin's eyes softened, though only for a heartbeat. The fire crackled between us, warm against the cold night air. And for the first time since exile began, I felt something more than survival. I felt the beginning of victory. Love beyond law. The fifth night in the expanse was colder than the rest. Our fire struggled against the wind, sparks dancing away into the darkness like fleeing stars. The hunters still prowled in the distance, their cries echoing across the barren land, but they no longer came close. Perhaps they had learned that we were not so easy to kill, or perhaps they were waiting for us to starve, watching from the shadows with patient hunger. We sat close around the fire, our bodies weary but our bond stronger than it had ever been. I could feel it in every glance, every word left unspoken. Elira was mending the crude coverings we had woven, her slender hands moving with patient grace. Kaela sharpened a stone blade with restless energy, her eyes reflecting the firelight like twin embers. For a long time, silence hung between us. Then Elira looked at me, her calm voice breaking the stillness. You carry us forward, human. Without you, we would have fallen to despair. I shook my head. No, without you, I'd have been dead the first day. You cleared the water. You healed when I faltered. Kaela fought when I couldn't. It's not me. It's us. Kaela smirked, though her eyes softened. Strange words. Most men would have chosen comfort. One of us, not both. Easier path, safer path. Yet you invited exile instead. I met her gaze. Because it was never a choice between you. You're both part of this, part of each other. Tearing that apart would have been wrong. The fire popped, filling the silence that followed. Elira's hands stilled, her eyes shimmering in the light. Kaela looked away, but not before I caught the flicker of something in her expression, something she would never admit easily. Later, when Elira slept, Kaela remained awake beside me. She sat with her blade resting across her lap, watching the shadows like a predator at rest. You don't understand what you've done, she said softly, her voice stripped of its usual sharpness. Enlighten me, I murmured. You defied our counsel. No one does that. Not even our own people. The law is older than memory. It is not questioned. It simply is. Her fingers tightened on the blade. And yet you broke it. For us. Her tone held no mockery now, only raw honesty. I didn't break it, I said. I refused it. And maybe it was never a law worth following to begin with. Kaela studied me, her eyes hard as stone. Then, slowly, she leaned closer. Reckless, foolish, human. Her lips brushed mine, brief, fierce, defiant. Then she pulled back, expression unreadable. Don't think that means I trust you. It only means I see you. She turned away, lying beside her sister, her shoulders stiff. But the heat of her kiss lingered long after my eyes closed. The next day tested us again. The expanse grew harsher with every step. Winds thick with ash, rivers choked with slime, creatures circling from the shadows. We pressed on, half-starved, half-broken, but never separate. When Elira stumbled, I lifted her. When Kaela faltered, Elira steadied her. When I nearly collapsed, both sisters pulled me forward. We survived not as three bodies, but as one. That night, as the second moon rose high, Elira's voice joined the wind in soft song. Her people's melody, slow and sorrowful, like rivers carving stone. I listened, spellbound. Kaela too, though she pretended otherwise. When Elira's song faded, she turned to me. Her eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight, reflecting something deeper than words. "You must understand," she said, her voice trembling. "Our bond, Kaelan's and mine, is more than blood. It is life itself. To separate us would be to end us. When you refused, you preserved what even we could not protect." I reached for her hand. She did not pull away. Then I'd refuse 1,000 times more. Her fingers curled around mine, delicate but unyielding. "I feared you reckless. But perhaps you are not reckless at all. Perhaps you are necessary." Her lips found mine gently, without Kaelan's fire, but with depth that rooted me to the earth. When we parted, she leaned against me, her breath steadying. Kaela stirred then, her eyes narrowing as she noticed. She rolled over with a grunt, muttering, "If either of you wake me with more of that nonsense, I'll kill you both." But her smirk betrayed her. By the seventh night, the three of us slept pressed close, not from necessity but from choice. Our warmth mingled, our breaths in rhythm, the boundaries between us fading with each day. The council had demanded separation. They had demanded a single bond. Instead, we had forged something new, a family. On the 8th dawn, we woke to find Elira pale and trembling. She clutched her abdomen, her face drawn. "Elira." I knelt beside her, panic surging. "What's wrong?" Her eyes flicked to Kaela, then to me. "Not wrong," she whispered. "Different. I feel life." Kaela froze, her blades slipping from her fingers. "Life." Elira nodded, tears glimmering. "I carry a child." The world seemed to still. Kaelan's eyes burned with something wild, torn between shock and wonder. She touched her sister's hand, then pressed her palm against her own abdomen. Her eyes widened. "No, not just you." She looked at me, fierce and unflinching. "Me too." My breath caught. Both of them. Impossible. The council had claimed only one bond could succeed, one path, one union. Yet here they were, two sisters, both carrying the impossible. Elira smiled through tears. Together, as we always were. Kaelan's laugh was raw, almost disbelieving. "We've broken more than their law, human. We've broken their truth." I felt the weight of it then, the enormity of what we had done. Humanity's survival was no longer theory. It was real, and it had come not from obedience, but from defiance. I pulled them close, one on each side, their hands in mine. The fire of Kaela, the calm of Elira, the bond that bound us three into one. "They'll try to stop us," I whispered. "Let them try." Kaela spat. Elira's voice was steady, resolute. "We carry the future now. No law can erase that." And as the expanse howled around us, I knew it was true. War against tradition. The expanse had given us everything it could. Pain, hunger, terror, and a bond that no law could sever. By the time the second moon completed its rise, our trial was over. We had endured. We had survived. And we carried something more precious than survival. Elira's glow, Kaelan's fire, both carried life inside them. The impossible. When the ship returned to retrieve us, it was not triumph I felt, but grim resolve. The council had expected us to fail. Now, we returned not broken, but victorious. And our victory was proof their law was nothing but a cage. The vessel carried us back to New Geneva. its interior cold and silent. No god spoke to us. No counselor greeted us. The silence was their warning. This was not welcome. This was war. The hall of renewal was brighter than before, its light sharp, almost blinding. The council sat high upon their thrones, their eyes burning with fury disguised as calm. The eldest rose. His voice, once melodic, now rang like iron. You survived. Kaela smirked, disappointed. A ripple of disapproval spread among the elders, but the eldest did not flinch. His gaze fell to Elira, who stood close by my side. His eyes narrowed, and yet, something is different. Elira's hand instinctively touched her abdomen. Too late. Gasps filled the chamber as the faint glow of life shimmered within her. And when Kaela stepped forward, her own glow mirrored it. The council erupted. Voices overlapped, shocked, outraged, fearful. Some shouted blasphemy. Others whispered of miracles. The eldest slammed his staff against the floor. Silence. The chamber stilled, though tension hummed like a blade ready to strike. He pointed his staff at us. This cannot be. The bond was designed to flow to one alone. Two cannot carry life by a single union. It is a violation of nature. No, I said, my voice steady though my chest thundered. It's proof. Proof that your law is not truth. Proof that family doesn't have to mean division. The eldest's eyes burned into mine. Proof of corruption. The human has poisoned the bond. This is abomination. Kaela stepped forward, defiance blazing. Call it what you will, but the future grows inside us. You cannot erase it. You underestimate our power, the eldest spat. Guards moved instantly, their armor shimmering as they stepped toward us. Blades of light crackled from their staffs. I pushed Elira behind me. Fists clenched though I had no weapon but stone courage. Elira's calm voice rose, trembling but strong. If you harm us, you destroy the very future you claim to protect. Kaela snarled. Touch us, and I'll tear your perfect whole down stone by stone. The council wavered. Their laws were absolute, but so too was their fear of extinction. The sisters glowed with life undeniable, the one thing the Eleri sought above all, continuity. The eldest hesitated, but only for breath. The council will decide your fate. Until then, you will be confined. No, I said, before fear could silence me. Every eye turned to me. My body shook, but I stood tall. You don't get to decide anymore. We survived your trial. We proved your law broken. You want to confine us. Kill us. Then admit what you really fear. That humanity has done what you could not. That defiance made a miracle. The chamber rang with silence. Then chaos. Some counselors shouted for exile, others for protection. The whole split like a cracked stone, voices colliding in fury. In the confusion, Kaela grabbed my arm. We can't stay. Elira nodded, her eyes fierce with urgency. The guards will move before dawn. We must go now. I looked at them both. Where? Kaelan's lips curled into a reckless smile. Anywhere but here. That night, we slipped through the city's veins. New Geneva, polished on the surface, was cracked beneath, the tunnels where the forgotten lived, where alien light didn't reach. Humanity's survivors huddled in the dark, their eyes widening as they saw us pass. Some whispered my name. Others reached for Elira and Kaela, or in their gaze. Word traveled fast. By the time we reached the outskirts, dozens followed. The council's guards would not strike us openly now, not with human eyes watching, not with whispers turning into shouts. We paused in an abandoned square, the ruins of old earth buildings standing silent. Elira spoke softly, her voice carrying on the night wind. They called it abomination. But look around. Humanity survives not because of laws, but because of bonds. Bonds that defy death. Bonds that endure ruin. We are proof. Kaela raised her voice, sharp as fire. The council would cage us forever. But we are done bending. Their laws are chains, and chains break. The humans cheered, their voices rising against the alien silence of the city. For the first time in years, I saw fire in their eyes, not fear, but defiance. Elira turned to me. What happens now? I looked at them both, at the swelling crowd, at the ruins that had been my only home. The council would never stop. They would hunt us, silence us, erase us if they could. But the truth was out. And once truth spread, it could never be caged again. "We don't hide," I said. My voice shook at first, but then grew firm. "We show them what we are. We protect what we've built. And if they try to take it from us..." Kaela finished for me, eyes blazing. "Then we show them war." Elira's hand found mine, her other hand clasping her sister's. For the first time, the three of us stood not as fugitives, but as something greater. The council had laws. We had life, and life always wins. Rebellion's dawn. The city awoke to whispers. By dawn, those whispers had become shouts. Word spread faster than the council could contain it. The human had returned from the expanse alive, and not alone. Two sisters stood with him, both carrying the impossible within them. Life born of defiance, proof that the council's law was not sacred but broken. The people gathered in the ruined squares, the cracked streets, the hollowed places where humans clung to survival. Their voices rose like a storm. For the first time in years, they were not silent. They demanded answers. The council responded with fear. Guards marched through the streets in gleaming armor, staffs blazing with pale light. They ordered dispersal, threatened exile, promised punishment. But the people did not move. The crowd thickened, voices hardening. And in their midst, we stood. Elira's hand rested on her stomach, the faint glow pulsing from within. Kaela stood beside her, blade of sharpened stone in her fist, eyes daring any god to approach. And me, just a man, but no longer just a survivor. A symbol. The council could silence one voice. They could not silence thousands. By midday, we were dragged again to the Hall of Renewal. But this time, it was not only the council who filled it. Humans pressed against the walls, spilling into the chamber, their presence undeniable. No longer shadows, no longer subjects, witnesses. The eldest counselor rose, fury carved into his face. "This defiance will end. The bond has been corrupted. The human has twisted it. If we allow this, chaos will spread. We cannot build a future on lies." "Then stop lying," I said. My voice carried further than I expected, strong and steady. "You claimed only one bond could succeed. You claimed your laws were truth. But here we stand, two lives, two futures, carried by the very sisters you tried to divide. Your law was never truth. It was fair." A murmur ran through the humans gathered. Even some of the younger counselors shifted uncomfortably. Elira stepped forward, her voice soft but firm, cutting through the tension. "Your law was meant to preserve us, but it has become a chain. Look upon us. Do we not prove that unity, not division, carries life forward?" Kaela followed, fire in her words. "You wanted us to break in the expanse. Instead, we survived. You wanted us to obey. Instead, we chose each other. And now we carry the future you claim to protect. Deny us, and you deny survival itself." The eldest slammed his staff, the sound like thunder. "Enough. This heresy ends now. Gods, seize them." He never finished, because the humans surged forward. Unarmed, ragged, hungry, but countless. They blocked the guards, shoving back against staffs of light with bare hands and stolen stones. The hall erupted in chaos. Shouts, crashes, sparks of alien energy clashing with the roar of human defiance. I grabbed Elira and Kaela, pulling them close, shielding them as the crowd swelled. For a moment, fear gripped me. Fear that the council would unleash slaughter. But then I saw something shift. The guards hesitated. For years they had faced broken, silent humans. But now, those same humans roared with fury and hope, refusing to kneel. The sight of Elira and Kaela glowing with unborn life froze them further. Even they could see it. This was no heresy. This was truth. The eldest counselor shouted again, voice cracking with desperation. "Obey your elders. Strike them down." But no one moved. Not the guards. Not the younger counselors. Only silence met his order. Elira's voice rose above the stillness, calm as flowing water. "The age of fear is over. The bond has changed. The future has changed. Accept it, or be swept away. Kaelin's words struck like fire after water. Your law is dead. We are not. The humans cheered, their voices shaking the hall to its foundation. The guards lowered their weapons. The eldest counselor trembled, his face pale with realization. He was no longer obeyed. He was no longer feared. The rebellion did not end in a single moment. The council still existed. Its elders still clung to their thrones. But from that day, power shifted. The people had seen the truth with their own eyes. The bond was not sacred. The law was not absolute. And humanity was no longer silent. We were taken from the hall not as prisoners, but as leaders. Humans gathered around us, touching Elira's hands, Kaelin's shoulders, my arms, as if drawing strength from our defiance. Their whispers filled the night. Hope, reborn. In the quiet after, when the streets had emptied and the fires burned low, the three of us stood together on the edge of the city. The sky above was black, scattered with unfamiliar stars. Elira leaned against me, her hand warm over mine. I never believed this could happen, she whispered. That defiance could bring life. Kaelin grinned, fierce and unyielding. It wasn't defiance. It was survival. And survival is ours now, not theirs. I looked at them both, at the impossible bond that had carried us through the expanse, through exile, through the council's judgment. And I realized something simple, something I should have known all along. This wasn't just about me. It wasn't even just about the sisters. It was about all of us. Humanity. We had chosen not to be broken. We had chosen life. And no law, no council, no cage could stop that. In the days that followed, New Geneva changed. Slowly, but unmistakably. The people no longer bowed their heads when the council passed. Whispers of rebellion grew into meetings, meetings into marches. Humans who had once accepted silence now spoke, demanded, shouted. The council still ruled, but their power slipped like sand through their fingers. They had been shown the one thing they feared most, that their truth could be broken, that their law could be defied, that life had chosen a new path. And in that path, I walked, not alone, but with Elira and Kaelin, their hands in mine, their futures growing inside them. For the first time since Earth fell, I believed in tomorrow. Not a tomorrow handed down by rulers, but a tomorrow we built together.